Love it. Hey guys, sorry, welcome back to Miller RC. Sometimes I get distracted on how straight and awesome this build came out. But anyways, yes, I am here to announce my newest 3D model in the Twisted Hobbies category. I seem to be collecting those at a surprisingly alarming rate. But anyway, this is the RC Factory or Twisted Hobbies Edge 580 Pro. Super light, and a few of my subscribers actually might recall my first one of these that I had, and it had the T-motor reversing combo up front for their indoor flying airplanes. And while that was cool, unfortunately the reverse system always didn't work, and that was the demise of my first one. Is while attempting to do a nose down hover, it failed to start and went nose first into a pool, frying the ESC and pretty much destroying the entire airframe. I mean, it was so beat up and twisted up that I knew it just really wasn't going to fly the same. So I went ahead and ordered this all the way back in July, and I just finished it about 2 weeks ago. So unfortunately, sometimes these things sit for whatever reason, or I just forget about them, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh yeah, I need to finish this. But anyway, so the goal for this plane was to build it as light as possible. I wanted to do something a little different compared to my other super lights that I've built in the past, and that is what I decided to do, is build as light as possible. And I am proud to announce that the final flying weight of this airframe, when a 2S 450 is in the front there, comes out at an amazing 125 grams.
Nice.
Yes, sir. This thing is amazingly light. This airframe, all up weight, ready to fly, actually comes in lighter than most RC Factory Click 21s, which may be a future project coming soon. Uh-oh. But anyways, yes, I'm super pleased with the weight and how straight this thing came out, and it is just absolutely amazing when it flies. So anyway, this portion of the video is I'm going to go through what all I did to make it as light as possible. There was definitely some things that were done differently than stock. So anyway, let's go ahead and get it in the model stand, because I don't know, I don't want to flip it upside down, just leave it on the counter. This thing's too straight for that to happen. I really want to make sure this thing does not warp. LOL. But anyway, yeah, let's go ahead and get it in the stand and show you what all I did to it. Okay, so now that we have this airframe flipped over and on the model stand, we can take a closer look at it and show you all the things I did to make it as light as possible. So up front, we are running a PT carbon fiber 9x43 prop. These props are expensive at like 20 to 30 bucks, but for my purpose of saving weight, it was absolutely worth it. I think this prop saved about 4 or 5 grams off normal props, and it's efficient, it's really quiet, it's got great power, it's amazing, and this motor really likes it. And speaking of motors, this is the Sunny Sky 2302 1500 kV version. I wanted the 1800 initially, but I got sent the 1500 and said, screw it, we're going to try it anyway. And the power is really good. It's got great punch out, and the throttle response is great with this PT carbon prop. So really happy with it. And if you noticed, for weight purposes, I'm missing 2 screws. I decided to omit those. I've just got one top and bottom. So yeah, y'all can call me crazy, because it gets kind of crazier the further we move back as far as weight savings go. But yeah, we'll go through them. And then for ESCs, you can see a big weight saver here was eliminating the bullets on the motor and making the wires as short as possible. And that did 2 things. 1, weight, and 2, move the ESC up further forward for CG reasons. I knew when I decided to build this one as light as possible, it was going to be a bit of a challenge to keep the CG in a good spot because of how short the nose is, and cutting the motor wires as short as they are and moving the ESC that far forward definitely helped a lot. So I'm really happy about that. And the ESC I'm running is a Twisted Hobbies 6 amp bolt ESC, and as you can see, I decased that for weight purposes as well. So tried to think of everything. But it's been a great ESC. The throttle response is perfect. It doesn't get hot at all. It's literally a perfect match for this Sunny Sky motor. And then as for aileron servos, I'm running a 6 gram, the Twisted Hobbies 6 gram servo instead of their normal 10. And the aileron horn extension is attached with thread and CA instead of screws. Once again, saving more weight there. So here's another big saver weight and a huge time consumer when I was putting it together, and that is the Archer R6 receiver. And man, I gotta tell you, I think the Archer R6 is about the best bang for your buck 6-channel receiver you can buy. It's got full range, dual diversity antennas, basic telemetry, is light enough to put in a plane like this, yet powerful enough to run a plane as big as 60 or 67 inch, which more on that airplane later. Sneak peek of what's coming, LOL. But yeah, and all those features that I mentioned there for literally $35. Can't beat it. Love it. These Archer R6 receivers are amazing. I've had 10 plus of them now, and none of them have failed on me. They've been absolutely phenomenal receivers. Cannot recommend them enough. And as you can see, for weight purposes, I desoldered, I cut the normal servo connections that normally plug into the receiver and decided to solder the servos directly to the receiver pins. And let me tell you, that successfully can be used as a form of torture. That was painful. I mean, it's hard to solder on servo wires when the receiver servo pins are so close together, but it saved a good 5 or 6 grams of weight. So you can call me crazy for spending 2 hours soldering servos for 5 grams, but hey, it really helped with reducing the weight of this plane, and I'm really happy that I did it. And then as for tail servos, we're running 4-gram servos there. The Twisted Hobby 4-gram servos. Normally, I think the 6 grams that I'm running in the ailerons would be back here. And they've been absolutely phenomenal. They center beautifully, as well as the aileron servo, and I haven't had any problems with them. So that's pretty much the list of electronics I'm running on this airframe. Here are some more weight savers. I drilled holes in the aileron horn there. There normally would be a reinforcement hinge here also. That's plastic, but I eliminated that for weight savings as well. And going back here, there's also some things that I did to save weight. I used 0.6 millimeter carbon rods instead of the 0.8 that are being used up here. And that, once again, helped with weight and really helped reduce the weight in the tail to achieve a good CG. And also for CG, I'm not running the tail side force generators. You can see there's the slots for the one on the rudder and the elevator. Right there is, you can see the holes in the slot for these things right here. But once again, for CG and weight purposes, I decided to eliminate those. And this airframe, I can't tell a difference. It flies better than my first one. So I was happy to leave them off for weight. And when I first flew it with them off, I was happy to see that it really doesn't affect. I mean, maybe it does affect the roll and the knife edge just a little bit, but this thing's so light and floaty, I really couldn't tell a difference. So I'm really happy that I left those off, and I think I will continue flying it without them. So anyway, yeah, that is pretty much the rundown. There's other sorts of little things I'm sure I did. I know I removed the stickers from the servos too, just to remove as much weight as possible. And I'm sure I'm forgetting some things, but yeah, I did a lot of things. And I'm just super pleased that it came out to a final weight of 125 grams. Alrighty guys, so yes, that is the rundown and modification list of all I've done to this thing to make it as light and physically straight as possible. I still can't get over how straight this thing came out. I mean, my first 3 super lights that I built, they had these little odd warps and everything, but this time I really took the time to make sure this thing came out perfectly straight. I mean, there's not a warp or misaligned part on this thing. I mean, it is perfectly in line. Oh, I love it so much. But anyway, yes, I can confidently say after all my efforts in making this thing as straight as possible and light as possible, that is 100% absolutely worth it. This airframe, I've never flown anything so light, nimble, and precise before, although that may change because I got a future project in this category of plane that's coming very soon. So keep your eyes on that. But anyways, yes, it is 100% worth the effort and more work that it required to get it to work. My biggest tip for anybody getting into 3D or wanting to have really good flying airframes is, at least in the 3D side of things, getting rid of any unnecessary weight and trying your best to make sure your airframes come out light as possible is one of the best things you can do to an airframe to make it fly as good as it possibly can. It really does help. It's amazing, especially on these smaller ones. The bigger planes maybe aren't as affected as much as far as keeping things as light, but I do know small airplanes like this benefit from it extremely. So yes, super pleased at how light and straight this one came out. I also really want to take time to thank Mr. Jan Spatny. I hope I'm saying your name right. You, sir, have designed an amazing flying airframe. I absolutely love how this thing flies. It is precise. It maneuvers unlike anything I've ever flown. It may not have the fancy full flying stab or nothing like that, but it maneuvers so uniquely and tracks so well. There's really nothing that I've flown that's quite like it. I'll always have one of these in my hangar, and if this one crashes and gets destroyed, I know I'm gonna immediately get and order another one because, well, number one, this thing's so straight and so beautifully light that if this thing had a mid-air or crash, I'd probably be heartbroken. It really is my baby right now, my pride and joy. So I cannot be any happier with how the result came out. So with that being said, and all my bragging about it, let's go ahead and show you guys how it flies. The flight that you're going to see was shot at the CAS indoor event that I shown about a year ago, I think. And this was down in Texas when I took my Texas Thanksgiving trip that I mentioned in my previous video. So with that being said, enjoy. Alright, well, we got the Edge 580 Pro up, and as mentioned, this thing is an amazing 125 grams, I think, or something like that. So this thing is amazingly light, and it flies very much like it. Nimble and swift, and I really took time making sure this one was nice and straight, so it flies as such. The area rolls here. You can see how nimble it is. Just put it in those right there. And then this Sunny Sky motor, even though it's smaller than recommended, provides plenty of power with this PT carbon fiber prop. And yeah, it's amazingly light, and like, you just never flown anything this light and nimble before, so it really pays off to get things as light as possible. Not always the case, but in this case I really am happy I did so. The only thing that maybe could make it even better yet would be faster servos, but I don't have access to those yet. I did find some better servos, I think, than what I got in here now. So I'm very strongly considering changing those out, but until then, haven't yet. And I'm only going to be flying this thing when the airspace is very clear, because I'm proud of this thing, and this thing, if it mid-airs, will really upset me. Yeah, let's see if we can just get like regular flying speed right there. Yeah. See, that's hands off, pretty much elevator right there. It's how light and slow it is. So very cool. CG is pretty much perfect as well. I couldn't be happier with it. I mean, at 45 degrees like that, so easy. Although that's probably more like 55 there. But the CG is very neutral on this right now. But yeah, this, I don't know. I've flown a lot of super lights in my days, but this one will always be in my hangar. It doesn't have the full flying stab at all, or all that fancy stuff, but it maneuvers so uniquely, and just in such a way that, you know, there's no way nobody can like this airplane. It maneuvers like nothing else that I've flown. But yeah, it is super light. It flies in such a confined space, it's ridiculous. I'm not quite brave to do a knife edge loop in here, but ultimately, it's pretty cool. So I did want to get a lighter pack on here. Like I said, I'm running a 2S 450 on it right now, but with how short the nose is on this one, not quite possible. The CG won't allow it, but still, for the weight I got it at, it's amazing. And what's most unique about this is carbon fiber prop. I don't know if it's just lighter or what, but the throttle response is really, really, I would say the punch out, there's like no lag in it or whatever. It's very linear, it feels like. So it's, yeah, really sweet. Like nothing I've ever flown before. And because I don't have antennas on this, I don't want to go too far out. Afraid I might lose range. But I haven't had any radio issues yet, even with without running the antennas, so very cool. Oh, I think my battery's starting to feel it a bit, so we'll go ahead and bring it in.